Hi, YouTube.
Greetings, YouTube. Here we are again, the Madhouse, otherwise known as the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com for our weekly Madhouse of recording our podcast.
A Toastmasters 71 podcast. Toastmasters Ireland, all of Scotland, half of Wales and half of England podcast.
More than half of England, Paul.
To the world.
It's more than half of England, yeah.
No, incorrect.
It is more than half. No, well, maybe not.
It's more than half, yeah. It's from London up.
The number of members in Toastmasters in District 71 South greatly exceeds, unfortunately, the number of Toastmasters in the rest of England.
Well, now, Paul, if I could interject there, that is maybe factually correct in terms of numbers of members, but given that London has probably 90% of the population of the country, I think that's a little bit unkind. Geographically, it is slightly more than half of England, I believe.
But there aren't too many clubs on the Pennine Way and in remote parts of England, like, parts of the Yorkshire Dales. So population-wise, the rest of England is smaller than District 71. Membership-wise, and the opportunities for expansion are greater in District 91. But actually wrong, Paul, wash my mouth out.
Exactly.
The opportunities for expansion in District 71 are bigger than any other place. We have no club in the Highland and Islands.
Yep, true.
And we have the University of the Highland and Islands. So why on earth we don't have a club up there, I have absolutely no idea.
Well, we'll just have to make sure that we organise one, Ted. You being the great District 71.
We'll have to start rattling cages.
Speechcraft for the Highland and Islands.
Yeah, good idea.
Collaboration with Helen Kelly, our hero from Scotland.
Yeah, fantastic.
Liz Welsh, Scottish.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
James McGinty.
Oh, fantastic, yeah.
And Kyle Murtagh.
Yeah. And Kyle Murtagh, all stars.
There's the team.
Do you know any of those people, Kathy?
I do. I know James McGinty. We've competed against each other. And
did you?
I think he may even have been a resident of Ipswich at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting, yeah. Lovely man.
Yes, and an excellent speaker.
Excellent speaker, fantastic Toastmaster, yeah.
Yeah, Glasgow has a few real top crack people in their Centre City Club. I forget the name of it. You might remember the name of it, Kathy, but it's what we would call S-hot.
Oh, yeah.
Now I have to go to my office. Moira, I apologize for this.
That's okay.
Probably ruin the YouTube.
We'll try
but I will.
Well, just don't. I will hide you, but don't hide yourself off the screen. That's all.
I'm here.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, YouTube doesn't mind, and podcast listeners will never hear it.
Well, we haven't got any listeners yet, have we?
Have we anybody on YouTube? We do. We always have somebody on YouTube.
Elizabeth usually clocks in early, about 3 o'clock.
She does.
I think Elizabeth Jordan deserves a very special commendation this year from the Talk Show for Talkers. The district has given the podcast a commendation in the past, to Moira and Ted, high recognition at district conference in Sheffield. But I think we definitely should give Elizabeth Jordan, and there should be an award ceremony.
Yeah, we will too.
I hope she didn't hear that. I'd like it to be a surprise.
You have a lovely way of giving surprises.
Well, it's a bit difficult to give a surprise when you're announcing it to 7.3 billion, or is it 7.6 billion? I lost count of the world population. Actually, no, that's not quite right, because not 7.6 billion who actually have access to the internet. It's only about 3 billion, I think, that have access to the internet. That's enough.
It is, yeah.
Okay, are we going to record this
Yes,
podcast?
yeah, we go.
'Cause I think it's about time. Paul, I know you're really looking forward to the day when the hairdresser is capable of joining us.
I've got the same problem.
I like your hair. It's wild. It sort of suits you. Suits your
Well,
personality.
are you all trying to get me going now? Are you all slagging me now because I haven't any hair? My hair grows on the inside, remember that? I have a fine head of skin.
That could be very painful, Ted.
Yes, I know. Tickles my brain.
Okay, now where's Audacity gone? It's deserted me. Oh, it's over there. Okay. Right. Believe it or not, I've been ready for some time.
Good.
Most
I don't believe that. We'll
Push
see.
the button somewhere and off we go.
Yeah, and off we
Kathy,
go.
has Mara explained to you the format of the show?
She has.
Brilliant.
Well, you see, we were here. What time were we here, Kathy? About 20 to 3?
Well, 10 to.
Yeah. So we had plenty of time to catch up. Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Let us begin. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. Our email address is info@irishtalkers.com. You can also find us on Facebook as the Talk Show for Talkers. And we look forward to your comments, your questions, your feedback. We regard these as evaluations. You can also listen to previous shows from our website, irishtalkers.com. And we also publish the Public Speaking Weekly. And this is a newspaper. It's all about Toastmasters. It's about confidence. It's about competence. It's about public speaking, leadership. So look out for the newspaper link on our website. My name is Ted Malamphy, and I'm joined again this week by the persuasive, passionate, personable Paul O'Mahony.
Well, thank you, listeners, for listening today. And I hope you're going to be really thrilled that you've subscribed to this podcast.
And thank you, Paul. And we'll have the usual eclectic mix of the stuff we have every week. We will have a thought for the week. We'll have a word for the week. We are certainly going to have a special guest, but that special guest will not be arriving until tomorrow. So you will have to come back at 4 o'clock tomorrow, Easter Saturday, to meet this lady. And I'm after telling you the gender now, so that's after spoiling half the fun for you. It's a lady, and she's from the east coast of England. And I'm not going to tell you any more about this lady now. I'm going to give you our thought for the week. And this is something that I picked up from Jim Rowan. And he's one of the people that we quote quite extensively on the show. And what he gave us, he usually gives us something very nice, but he gave us one that success is a few simple disciplines practiced daily. What would you think of that, Paul? Success is a few simple disciplines practiced daily, like making your bed when you get up in the morning, first thing.
Well, I think it's excellent, except for one thing. Unless he names the disciplines, there are some disciplines I wouldn't encourage anyone to practice every day. So, and they might be simple. So I think we got to be careful to define the collection or the group of disciplines which will make a difference. And of course, Jim Rohn is probably inviting us to think about this and make your own list.
Well, the one I would be giving, and I'm only thinking this now, one of the things he would have told us was to make your bed. If that's the first thing you do every day, that's a good start to the day. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to eat that frog.
Yes, I remember that coming up in a previous show.
Yes,
but Ted,
If
This-
you, who was it? Not Huckleberry Finn. What's the fellow who wrote about Huckleberry Finn again?
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Mark Twain told us that if you eat a frog, the first thing you do in the morning and let it slither down your throat, down your gullet into your belly, that's the first thing you do every day. That's a good start to the day. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to eat that frog.
Well, I tell you something, Mark Twain was one of the great humorists and one of the greatest writers ever produced in America. Ted, there's one thing about this this particular quotation and your reference to making your bed.
Yeah.
It's a well-known fact. There's a good cliche, isn't it? It's a well-known fact that in the army, the first thing they insist you do is make your bed. And they inspect the standard to which you make your bed all the time. But they do not insist that you eat a frog. What they do insist is that you polish your shoes. These are the two disciplines. Well, there are other disciplines as well. You can't turn out on parade without your kit, your uniform being shipshape, as they say in the Navy. But certainly that discipline of make your bed. Now, I have a simple discipline every day. Every single day before I do anything else, I delete all the emails I don't want to read. Very simple, removes a whole load of distractions, and I'm usually left with about 2 emails from my brother. And apart from that,
I was wondering actually why you weren't answering my emails recently, so that's what you do.
Oh, no, Ted,
I haven't. Just discard me, throw me on the rubbish heap.
I never delete your emails. They go straight into junk.
I know. Paul, it's interesting that you should have used the phrase there, shipshape, because General McCraven, the Admiral of the Navy in America, he was a person who gave us that as well about making your bed and how the creases have to be turned down and the pillows have to be fluffed up, and that had to be done religiously every day. If you look him up, General McCraven, he gives a fantastic valedictorial speech in his alma mater. Fantastic speech, great speech. And it's about that now. It's about the disciplines of doing things at the start of the day, such as making the bed, polishing the shoes, doing the big things first. That's what Eat the Frog comes from. You do the big things first. And if you can swallow that frog early in the morning, the rest of the day will go swimmingly.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to change my habits. I'm going to eat frogs every morning.
Yeah, I tell you couldn't be doing far wrong. You're just very nutritious, very nutritious. So, Paul, you have a word for the day for us, or for the week even?
Yeah, I have a word for the week, Ted, which I would never use to your face. In fact, I don't think I'd use it behind your back.
Okay.
And
I'm going to get out of the room, so.
That's because I don't consider you to be patronizingly haughty. I do not consider Ted Melanphy to be patronizingly haughty. I don't presume him to be arrogant, bumptious,
Nice words.
huffy, imperious. Okay, what's my word of the week? My word of the week this week is something that can be defined as patronizingly haughty. Supercilious. 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 A good one to use when your club has a spelling quiz or a contest.
It's good, actually.
So when Toastmasters clubs have their spelling contest, because that's the one introduced by the grammarian every year, supercilious is perhaps a word to put in. Now, I don't know how many 100 clubs in the world have a spelling contest every year, and I don't know how many grammarians look forward to it, but supercilious is a synonym of being uppity, uppish, superior, pompous, all those kind of things. And listeners, I have a question for you, because none of the presenters on the Talk Show for Talkers, other than me, who has done my research, will know the answer to this. Listeners, in what century did the word supercilious enter the English language?
Well, since the listeners aren't responding, I'm going to have a go.
Yeah, the listeners have given up. When do you say?
16th century.
Oh my God, he got it right.
I didn't. Did I?
Can we please have...
First time ever I got it right.
please unmute yourselves.
I think you're catching me now with the date that's in it. You know,
yeah, well,
not 15... the date for publishing, but the date that's in it.
1543. Thank you, Moira. 1543, Ted. I know you'd have said 1544, but I'm going to award you the what's the word?
Statue.
What's the word for the origin of words? People who look into the origin of words, there's a name for them. Is it etymology?
Is it? I don't know. That sounds like a lovely word too.
I'm pretty sure it's etymology.
Right.
But anyway, we won't worry about that. And we're not going to try and spell it this week. But yes, supercilious, there we are. You don't get anywhere in Toastmasters if you're supercilious. In fact, the Toastmasters values preclude anyone who's supercilious from joining. Because if you are supercilious, you cannot sign the Toastmasters promise. And if you don't sign the Toastmasters promise, no club will accept you as a member. Because in fact, when you sign your application form, you sign the Toastmasters promise. So there we are. That's why we have no supercilious.
But why would you not be allowed to sign the promise? Or why would you not be allowed to give the promise? If you have a potential member that comes in to join the club, you're not going to leave them out because they're just have got their own traits, surely.
Oh yes, good Lord. A club that accepts anyone with any set of values in is asking for trouble. Like, you see, if you can't join Toastmasters unless you subscribe to the 4 values.
Yes, but you could be supercilious, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't subscribe, or you couldn't subscribe to the 4 values of.
No supercilious person can subscribe to the value respect or even service. I mean, they're contradictory. So it's a bit like, now the other thing is you can't join unless you sign that you have made the promise, not necessarily in front of your club. You sign it privately. Right. Now, some clubs in the world insist that you recite the promise in front of the club so that you've done it publicly. You've publicly subscribe to the promise, something that I think, Ted, you and I favor, and regret that the habit, which was once done in Blarney Club when you joined under the leadership of a fantastic club president whose name escapes me.
Paul Murphy.
There we are. So the key thing...
Well, he was the founder of Blarney.
Yeah. Well, the key thing is, I thought, no, when you joined, oh, yes, there was a woman president.
Oh, there was, yeah.
And I don't remember her name now. But the key thing is, you can't be a Toastmaster if you're supercilious. I mean, imagine, have you ever met somebody who's patronizingly haughty in Toastmasters?
Yeah, Janet Thomas was that lady's name. She was from Wales. Fantastic Toastmaster, great role model. And that brings this episode of the first segment of the talk show for talkers to a nice conclusion, Paul. And we want you to come back tomorrow because we'll be interviewing that special guest. And Paul is going to be designing and directing conferences in section 3. And maybe our guest will help him to do some of that designing.
Actually, Ted, a small correction. In segment 3, which will come out in a couple of days' time, I'm going to talk about how Toastmasters vote.
Oh, beg your pardon, Paul. I see it there now down at the end. Thank you.
So I don't know whether it's going to be about what political party they vote for in the election, or whether it's going to be some other form of voting, but it's going to be about how Toastmasters vote.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow with our special guest. Well, Cathy, you can see how supercilious we are now.
I love the word supercilious.
It's a nice word, yeah. Paul has graduated from the one-syllable words. He had a great run on the one-syllable words for about 6 months, and then he ran out of one-syllable words. He's up to 5 syllables now.
Well, they certainly trip off the tongue very easily.
Yes, yeah. The thing is, you better make sure you give the definition before you say it, that because the person you're giving that lovely compliment to will discover fairly quickly that it's not so much of a compliment.
Well, a mixed blessing, perhaps.
Yes, we look at it that way. Yeah, you're generous. You're in that generous mode today with Easter coming upon us. I can see that.
Absolutely. 2 bank holidays. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, well done.
Ted, you realize that this particular show has reduced the possibility of recruiting members into Toastmasters because we have directly excluded a whole bunch of supercilious people. And you know what? There could be some clubs that would be so desperate to be distinguished that they'd be tempted to recruit a supercilian.
Is that one of those people is called a Sicilian?
I made it up. I don't know if.
I don't think it is,
but it sounds like a good word, doesn't it? It sounds like a word.
It's kind of got a mafioso ring to it.
Yeah.
Well, supercilian, you know, in future centuries, it could be said the word was first used on the Talk Show for Talkers in 2021.
No, they wouldn't be saying 2021, no, they'd be saying about 2 centuries ago.
Well, 1543. There we are. So,
well, Paul, you and I have our legacy mapped out already.
Yeah, we do, Ted. We've put a new word into the English language, you see.
Supercilian, that's fantastic.
It is. I love it. I love it. Are we ready to move to the interview?
So, Cathy, did you warm up your voice box now, and are you ready to go? Did you have the spoon of honey earlier?
It's pomegranate juice, actually.
Oh, very nice. Even better again. That's very good for the voice.
Absolutely.
Well done. Lovely.
Okay, we're ready for the interview. So, a needle pulling thread. Oh, Paul.
Can we just before we start? Just before we start.
YouTube are not seeing you now, Paul. You can do what you like.
Do you realize that the region of the eyebrows is, in plural, the regions of the eyebrows are supercilia?
Oh,
it's interesting.
Well, you know that cilia are fine hairs. And there are a number of places in the body where we have cilia. The lungs, for example. I forget where else, but there are a number of places.
I always knew you had hairy lungs, Myra.
Oh, and the ears.
I always knew it.
And the ears. And these cilia help whatever it is that is in that particular organ.
Yeah, the alveoli, the little sacs that help the oxygen to go throughout the body.
Yeah.
That's what that does.
Okay, let's get going. Ted, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers and segment 2. And we would have promised you yesterday a very special guest. And this guest, even though we're in April, this guest she has won the VPPR for the month of March. What an accolade to have. And this lady's name is Cathy Shelburne. And Cathy, you're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here.
And we're pleased to have you here. And Cathy, what is the name of your club?
It's the Ipswich Electrifiers Speakers Club. And we're on the east coast of Suffolk, almost as far east as you can get and still stay in England.
Lovely. And where did the Electrifiers come into it? Were they all working for the utility company?
No, it's a curious name, isn't it? But in fact, the club, which was founded 25 years ago, met in the Ipswich the Talk Electric Centre, which was actually part of Eastern Electricity. And we've moved from there long since, but we kept the name because we like to think that we're electrifying public speaking.
Superb. I love that, actually. That's what I was thinking too, that fits in beautifully. Well, we'll see now if people are going to get a shock when they hear some of the things coming out of you later on, Kathy.
Oh, I really hope not.
Well, I'm literally using the shock that if you get an electric shock, that you're going to be electrified. Well done, well done. I see you're joining in with the supercilious crowd here now already. That's brilliant.
I really like the word supercilious, and I think supercilian eyebrows is definitely going to be my phrase of the month.
Yes, that's it, lovely. That's it, that's beautiful, actually. And what you'll have to do now, Kathy, is you'll have to get onto your club members and tell them to sign up to the Talk Show for Talkers on Saturday at 4 o'clock, because you will be enthusing them, you will be exciting them, you will be electrifying them.
I will indeed.
Yeah, with the words you're going to be coming over, because we're going to pry into your Toastmasters career.
Oh dear.
Oh, I don't know, it's nice, it's lovely actually, because anybody in Toastmasters is more than capable of answering the questions. And we've asked the same 5 questions of Toastmasters from all levels of the organisation and everything in between. So you're in rarefied company. I'd say that. And what area? Sorry,
I'm following in the footsteps of some great people.
Excellent. And what area is Ipswich Electrifiers speakers in?
It's in Area 1 in Division G.
Oh, very good. Area 1, because both Paul O'Mahony and Maura O'Brien and I, we're in Division A, but we're in Area 3.
Okay.
So you're in District 71, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
We're right out on the eastern side of District 71.
Lovely. Yeah.
And probably the southern end of it as well.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So you have good weather most of the time, have you?
We have a very mild climate, certainly. The rainstorms seem to go up the rivers and leave the land in between. So, yeah, it's a nice place to live, definitely.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's lovely to be able to say that. And what nights of the week do you meet?
We meet on Thursday fortnight on Zoom at 7 o'clock.
Oh, very good. And you're finished around 9ish, so is it?
Yes, we have toyed with the idea of making our meetings shorter, because so many people seem to be zoomed out by 9 o'clock. Mm. And we're just experimenting really with the time of meetings.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Would you think we've taken advantage of the situation that we're in as Toastmasters with Zoom?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, because like many clubs, I'm sure we've had guests from all over the world. And it's really nice that they can join in. And when it comes to contests, and we might speak about this more later, it's a definite advantage that, you don't have to leave your own home and you can take part in the contests so easily.
That's very interesting. And would you have many international members now with you in your club? Would you have recruited new members from around the world? Yeah.
We haven't actually recruited, we've had guests, but in fact, our members are quite international anyway. We've got a couple of Romanians, we've had in the past German. I don't know whether it's what it is about Ipswich, but it seems to attract quite an international residency, and Indian as well, and maybe working for British Telecom. I think that's the connection there. So we already had quite an international membership, but we've had an increasingly international guest list, and that's been very good.
That's fantastic. And the amount of education and learning and, this kind of detente that we're doing, we are reaching out our arms across the world, and I think that's a fantastic opportunity for things like world peace. We're understanding what other people are thinking, and they're understanding us, So, Kathy, we'll bang on with the 5 questions.
Really...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go on, sorry, I interrupted you when you were going to say something. Sorry about that.
No, let's lead on into the questions. Far away.
Okay, so what brought you to Toastmasters?
Well, what brought me was the need for experience, really, experience in public speaking. And I joined Toastmasters a long time ago, nearly getting on for, dare I say it, 40 years ago.
Oh, well done.
So the decades have rolled away,
Yeah.
but I joined Oxford Speakers Club in the first place because I knew that I lacked confidence. And that's what it gave me. Obviously, at that time, the members were generally much older than me. They had mountains of experience, and it was a very steep learning curve for me. And it actually enabled me to get, I was living in Oxford, but I applied and there were hundreds of applicants, but it was the experience and the ability to present in public that got me that job. And so I am eternally grateful to Oxford Speakers Club and to Toastmasters International, because it really got me on my way in my career.
That's a fantastic testimonial on behalf of Toastmasters. Fantastic testimonial.
Well,
particularly for younger people out
really
there who have the fear, you know.
Yeah, it's building your confidence in a very supportive atmosphere. Yeah. And those members at Oxford, they were very understanding. And there was just one person who wasn't very understanding, and he's now dead, but he gave me quite a strict evaluation and I nearly didn't come back. I was nearly, you know, I felt quite devastated. But because he had judged me quite harshly, I guess it really pulled me up short, and it made me think, well, you know, am I doing this? Perhaps I could do something else. So he was kind in the end, I suppose. It hurt at the time.
Yeah, good way of looking at it, actually, because some people can be unkind when they should be the complete opposite, particularly with a new Toastmaster. You have to ease them into it, you know. And what has been the greatest benefit to you?
Yeah. I think the greatest benefit was the confidence, really, just the giving confidence that when I opened my mouth, hopefully something sensible would come out. And that has worked so many times, you know, in table topics contests, that you get the most seemingly impossible subject. And you open your mouth, and because you've got that confidence, you've got that practice, you know that you are going to be able to answer that question, or you hope you're going to be able to answer it in a relatively sensible, interesting, whatever way.
Excellent. That's what they say, actually, that you should usually go with the first word that comes into your head, and the other words will follow on after, you know?
Yes, I'm not completely convinced of that, but it's a good...
So you obviously don't try that, so you think about what you're going to say before you say it, whereas I might say something and I'll think about it later. So what has been your biggest...
It's a dilemma, isn't it? I know that some people...
Sorry.
Sorry, my biggest Toastmasters challenge?
Yes.
That's an interesting one, and I think it really came last year, and it was in the whole contest time, and I'd got through to the semi-finals, which were going to be held at the conference in Killarney. Ooh. And of course lockdown happened and I couldn't attend in person, but obviously with Zoom I could attend the contest in my own home. And the challenge, there were two challenges for me, really. One was actually getting used to Zoom rather than anything else that was going on.
Yes.
And the other challenge was that my mother had died the week before.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And so I was thrown, really. I was obviously thinking about that. I was having to grapple with the new technology. And in a way, I've never felt so alone in my life as facing that camera in the waiting room, waiting to go and do my piece in the table topics contest. And actually, I think what pulled me through was the fact of practice. You know, we practice so much. We practice in our clubs, we practice in our contests, we practice in our daily lives. And just going back to that, I knew that when I opened my mouth, Toastmasterly was going to come out, and it did. And I got through that semi-final, but I didn't get through to the finals. But yeah, that was a challenge. It was a real challenge to get my head together. And yes, I'm proud to say that, yes, I did it.
It was very brave of you to do it just after losing your dear mum.
Yes, but on the other hand, if you don't do it, if you don't seize the moment, then you'll regret it. And you know, nobody wants to look back with hindsight and think, should have done that, could have done that, didn't do that. What a shame.
Yeah, good advice there as well. And if you could, what would you change about Toastmasters, if anything?
I wonder sometimes that when the clubs tot up their points as part of the Distinguished Club programme, that we don't give points to people who do get through the speech contests, whether it's an evaluation, table topic, international speech or whatever. We give points to people, we give points to the clubs for club officer training or for DTM, but we don't actually award points. We don't give congratulations really, or recognise congratulations to those people who have gone through the speech contests, who have been supported by their clubs, who have put in huge time and effort and nerves. You know, it's a scary experience. And I've been very fortunate. My club members have helped me enormously. They've helped me practice. They've given me support. You know, they've sent me goodwill messages and whatever. But that doesn't get acknowledged. And I think it would be nice if Toastmasters did acknowledge people who win speech contests.
Or even not win them, just to compete in them. They should be acknowledged for that as well.
Absolutely, it's not just it. Yes, it is.
Yeah, well said. I think that's the first time we ever had that kind of an answer now, and I think it's eminently sensible, what you've just suggested there. Yeah, well done. That's very sensible. So what keeps you coming back then to Toastmasters, even though you've answered that now with all the other answers, but what keeps you coming back to Toastmasters?
Yes, for over 30 years, I keep coming back. It's the people. It's the stimulation, it's the interaction, it's the witticisms, it's the, what do you call it? It's the friendship. It keeps me coming back because every time is different and you learn something every time. You get something from somebody else and they get hopefully something from you. So it's the interaction really that keeps me coming.
Well done, Kathy. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you on the Talk Show for Talkers. And that brings us to the end of this segment, but I really enjoyed that chat. And I hope that the powers that be listened to your answers, because that's one about recognition for people who enter competitions and contests. Not alone are they supported by their club, but they're supporting their club. And that's a fantastic suggestion. Kathy, thank you for that. Well done. You did your club proud, yeah. I think they'll be giving you accolades on Saturday evening around 5 o'clock. They'll have to bring you down for a glass of champagne, I think.
Well, I hope so.
That would be lovely. And you know, the lovely part of the interview, Kathy, is when you listen back to it on Saturday. Because when you're answering questions, even though you've thought of you've thought of what you're going to say, but you don't realise what you say until you re-listen to it. You know, it's fantastic.
Sometimes I cringe though when I hear myself back.
No, what you're going to hear is beautiful. Lovely words. Lovely words.
Ted, are you going to...
Well, thank you for being the interviewer.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. And I usually take my energy from the person that's looking at me and giving me those fantastic answers. Now, Kathy, are you going to stay on with us for the next segment? Or have you time?
Yes, I'm very happy to.
Oh, that's brilliant,
Yeah,
because we'd
that'd be
love to get
great.
it. We'd love to get your words of wisdom and advice, particularly since you've been in Toastmasters, so you're a very experienced Toastmaster. And we could see that there. You're confident, competent,
Yeah.
you know what you're going to say. So we'd be delighted. And Paul will be doing the next segment, but
Okay.
he'll certainly call you and I in for our opinions.
Ted, are you
Yes,
are
Mara.
you not going to give an outro
great.
to introduce Paul for tomorrow?
Oh, I will actually, but we gave it at the end of the first segment, but I'll give it again if you
No, we
wish, Mar, if you
always
want to
do it-
stitch it in.
We always do
Okay.
it at the end of each segment for the
Okay.
next segment. So
Okay.
irrespective of the fact that you introduce it in the first, we introduce it today.
Of
So
course,
people are
of
going to come
course.
back tomorrow. Okay.
So we'll see you again tomorrow with the perilous
Whoa.
Paul O'Mahony, or the peerless even, not perilous, peerless Paul O'Mahony,
Um,
and he'll be talking to us about how
Paul,
Toastmasters
Ted.
vote.
Thank you, Ted. Now, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah? 3, 2, 1, go.
And we'll see you tomorrow with the peerless Paul O'Mahony, and he'll be advising us or asking us how Toastmasters vote.
Thank you, Ted. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves as usual.
I usually just tell the kids go out and play with the traffic.
Okay.
Will you be asking me about PR ideas, or is that not?
Yeah, you know what we were thinking, what we'll do is we'll do that in segment 4, because I'd love to get your ideas for PR and how to promote the club and what kind of system do you use, and do you make your own posters and stuff like that? Or whatever you want to contribute.
Yeah, I'd quite like to talk. Yeah, I'd quite like to talk about events during lockdown, because obviously we can't meet up, but we have had a few events via Zoom, and it's been great fun.
Excellent idea. Excellent idea. Yeah, you can have a glass of wine. You can actually have a Zoom party. Have you ever been to any of Nick Licani's parties?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you'll have to watch out for Nick Licani. He was the Toastmaster of the Year last year in District 71 because of what he's done for us over Zoom. He was the man who kind of taught us everything about Zoom, or at least he taught us what we know about Zoom. But he has some fantastic parties, great parties, and you could have 100 people at it.
Well, there's one tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw them promoted. Is that?
And
I saw
you
them
know
promoted
what?
after the conference.
Kathy, if you would be interested, I will get you invited to the party that Nick is going to take place in. We'll call it Nick's house tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm looking to.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I will do that. I'm just double checking to make sure that it's on the Friday, not the Saturday. But
what time is it on, Paul?
Well, I should know, and I'll tell you why I should know, because I'm actually going to open the party.
All right. It's a pity. It's a pity from the point
at the very beginning. So I will. I tell you what. By the end of the show, I will have found out. And in addition to that, I will have got the link for it, and I will have posted it in the chat, and I'd be thrilled to invite you along. Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Kathy, it's a pity it's not on Saturday, because we could have you at the party as the guest of honor after appearing on the talk show for talkers.
Ooh. Well,
but we'll still announce it tomorrow, Friday, that they can watch out for the guest of honor. You know?
No, you can't, Ted, because the party will already be over by then.
Yeah, but we can tell them to listen in tomorrow, because the guest of honor, had it been on a Saturday, would be this lady, Kathy Shelburne from
Okay.
Ipswich Electrifiers.
Oh,
Why
I see
not?
what you mean. You can announce at the party. Sorry, I got it the wrong
Oh,
way.
I certainly will. I'll have a pint of Guinness in my hand, and I'll be saying, this lady is going to be on the talk show for talkers tomorrow. Listen out for her.
Okay, are we going to
Yeah, crack on.
crack
Right.
on with the next
Okay.
segment? Okay, are you ready? Who's bringing?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Bring in? Yeah, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends. We know this is the segment you wait for every week, because we have the passionate, personable, peerless Paul O'Mahony, and Paul is going to be talking to us about how Toastmasters vote. Take it away, Paul.
How do Toastmasters vote? How do you vote? You are listeners, members of Toastmasters International, and we would all love to know how you vote. However, you're entitled to a secret ballot in national elections. You're entitled to a secret ballot in local elections. Are you entitled to a secret ballot in Toastmasters elections? So today I'm going to introduce the topic of voting in Toastmasters, because a lot of people, when they join Toastmasters, have no interest in how the organization is structured. They have no interest in or even awareness of the policies of the organization. And many of them are unaware of how even the club that they join elects its committee. And some of them might even think that the club committee goes on for as many years until members of it pass away, or that there are grandmother and grandfather rights to be on a committee. And indeed, many clubs have members who have been on their committee for many years, sometimes in the same role and sometimes in different roles. For example, it's very, very usual for the vice presidents for finance, or treasurer as the role is called in Toastmasters, to remain the treasurer for several years. I haven't got the same information about club secretaries, but I suspect many club secretaries remain as secretary year after year. And I don't think anyone would say that's particularly a bad thing, since the club secretary looks after all the vital documents of the club. And the more people you hand them on to, the more danger and risk there is of losing vital documents, including the club constitution, anyway, and including the membership application forms, which are another part of the club's treasury. But I'm not here to talk about those forms. I'm here to talk about the powers that individual members have. So let's start from the bottom up, if you like, or from the top down. Everybody who is a member of a club and has paid their subscriptions and is, what is the phrase, a member in good standing, is entitled to vote, usually once a year, for all members on the committee. And even if you join in, where are we now? We're in April. If you join in April, you pay your subscriptions, you will be entitled to vote for next year's club committee. And that's quite a responsibility, particularly if you don't know anybody in the club already. But you have to be present at the club meeting in order to vote. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about quorums and all that, but there's a first level. Now, when you have more than that as an elector in good standing in the club, you are entitled to vote on all club policy matters, because the club committee has indeed got the authority to bring motions forward to the club members, but does not have the authority to change club policy without reference to the members. So that means that all clubs have their key policies determined by the membership. And that is a very, very important feature. So let's go on from that. What happens when you get to an area director? Now, some of you will know this, that Toastmasters, groups of clubs are in areas, and you clearly have to have an area director. So who gets to vote for the area director? I'm pausing so that you can write down the answer. It's the club president, the club vice president for education, and the club vice president for membership. They're three of the people who are entitled to vote. However, the assistant area directors are entitled to vote. And if indeed an area has 3 assistants, which is entitled to have assistant area directors, there are 3 votes there. The person who is not entitled to vote in the first place is the area director. They have a tie-breaking vote. Now, forgive me if I get this one wrong. I do not believe, and I'd want to double check, whether the area director has a vote. But the key thing is that the area director who is a member of a club, has a tie-breaking responsibility. So there we have the area. All areas can have all sorts of people on subcommittees, but the only people who get to vote in the area director elections are the people I've mentioned already. Now, as you know, or perhaps will know after this, areas are clustered together into divisions. So again, the question comes up, who is entitled to vote for the position of division director? And this is where something that will really surprise you. First of all, in voting for division directors in Cork next year, let's just simply think, you would probably imagine that it is people from Cork. No, I'm either delighted or sorry to tell you, every club president and every club vice president for education in the whole of District 71 has a vote on who gets to be the division director in Cork. There's a big logic to this, which I won't go into, but basically it is that the division director is a district officer as opposed to an officer in a club. But there we are. So there are, I don't know how many electors, maybe in District 71, it would be somewhere between 400 and 500 in total. So, but also a area director has a vote, and also division directors have a vote in what happens in any one particular division. And also the district leadership team has a vote. So that gets you the division. Who elects the district director? By the way, it's elected at the same meeting. The division directors and the whole lot of votes take place. And it's the same electors. The same people can vote for division, as can vote for district director, as can vote for program quality director, club growth director. In District 71, the public relations manager is voted for. So all of those things are given. So people in clubs determine who gets to be the district director. Think of the number of clubs and 2 people per club. It's a very large number, and there are very few district leadership team people, and there are only 12 division directors, and you multiply that by about 4, and that'll tell you how many area directors there are. Now, what happens at the next level? We got the district sorted. What happens at the world level? Who has a vote at the world level? Who do you think gets to set policy? It's the club president and the club vice president for education. I'm desperately trying to remind myself whether the vice president for membership has a vote at the World Convention. I don't think so. And
No, I don't think so, no.
I'm being helped by my colleagues here, Moira O'Brien, who knows a lot about these kind of things, and Ted Melanphy, all very experienced people.
And I'd say Kathy Shelburne would probably know a bit about it too.
Oh, that's great.
Kathy, have you ever been on the district leadership team?
Oh, you have?
No, I've been an area governor, as it was in those days, but no
Yes.
more than that.
Okay. Did you ever have any aspirations to rise up to those heady heights?
No, I didn't. Otherwise, I probably would have done. I just went in different direction, really.
There's still plenty time there. Don't rush it at all. Whatever you do, there's plenty time there. You'd never know. This might be the show that will give you that
Yes,
appetite for something like that. We better tell Elizabeth Jordan that her position could be under threat this year from the east coast of England.
Just to continue on the annual, with the most senior positions in the organization, just to tell you that there are a number of votes which are taken. First of all, policy. I've talked about policy, but there are also who gets elected to be the international president, the person who's going to be international president next year and the person the year after. And there also are international directors to be voted on. And there are regional advisors to be voted on. And all of these people are voted on by club members in clubs. I was surprised to find out last year that as an area director, I had no vote in international policy. The only the people are the club presidents and vice presidents for. Now, if I had been a club president or a vice president for education, I would have had a vote.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So that's another example of the organization being run, complex, large, structured organization being run by the members. And indeed, proposals that are put to the membership at the International Convention are not always accepted. There was a very serious proposal put last year, which was voted down. And it had the full support of the board of Toastmasters International, but the membership in the form of the president and VP weren't persuaded. Now, the very best presidents and vice presidents for education will consult their club members on how they should vote. The very best clubs will probably run an education session on the motions that are coming up. I have no idea how many do that. But if you are representing not just yourself, but your club members on policy and votes for positions, why not get your club involved in it? Of course, not everyone will be interested, but there'll definitely be some people. And in your club, there might well be a person who has aspirations to be the international president of Toastmasters and the talent, because you keep learning as you go along. So there we are. They are some of the key things that get voted on, and the electors. And I trust that when your turn comes this year in your elections for your area directors, your division directors, and all the other people, that you will turn up at the meeting. Now, I haven't said anything about proxies. It just complicates things if I tell you about proxy voting. So I'm going to leave that out. So all those of you who are jumping up and down at home saying to yourselves, he hasn't talked about the proxies and that system, that's very deliberate. So any thoughts there, Ted, on elections in Toastmasters?
Well, I think the structure leads the organization to success, because it's from the ground up, and there's all these different layers, and that's what helps the organization to thrive. Even though we are Toastmasters and it's a communication organization, a lot of people don't know exactly what Toastmasters do. Would you have any thoughts on that, Kathy?
I think it's a very egalitarian outfit, and I think that was an excellent run through by Paul.
It was good knowledge to give us, Paul, for people who are going to be listening. You know, that's good knowledge. It shows us the structure, and it really is people power, isn't it? When you think of it, starts from the ground up, as you said.
Well, let me chip in one extra thing I've just remembered I meant to say. You would imagine that the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO of Toastmasters International, would have a vote. He is, after all, on the board. But he doesn't. He participates in the conversations about motions, but he has no vote. He doesn't have a casting vote. So employees of the organization are excluded from voting. And there we are. So, listeners, thus ends as much as I can offer you today. Ted, you might like to finish this particular.
Thank you, Paul. And that's a lovely segue to the next segment, which is segment 4. And in segment 4, we are going to be speaking about, in particular, the importance of the VPPR in a club and how we get the word out there. And our special guest today will have lots of little nuggets and pearls that she might throw our way. So we're looking forward to that. Kathy Shelburne is going to share some of her thoughts with us on the role of a VPPR and the effectiveness of a good VPPR. So come back to us tomorrow for some more education. Well done.
I have never seen a remark like Moira has put in the chat. She is usually wanting to get us off stage as quickly as possible.
Yeah, what did she say? Carry on.
Today, I'm thrilled to say Moira enjoyed it.
Well,
fantastic.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I was paying attention.
Does she not usually?
No.
No, that's a naughty question, oh, Kathy.
Kathy, it's my sense of humor. I forget that it's possible for me to mislead people. I say things that I think are patently, obviously absurd. Why would Moira O'Brien be with the Talk Show for Talkers 20 years after it started if she didn't enjoy it?
Good point.
It is quite interesting listening to your sense of humour, all of you.
Well, thank you very much. That's good. Well, it's nice to see you smiling about it.
I say that in a supercilious way.
Oh, well done. We'll get an extra clap for using the word of the week.
Yeah, Ted, but you realise you've been insulted to your face with the smile.
I know that, I know. And I heard this Kathy Shelburne would take off her slippers when she's kicking you as well, Paul.
Well, such are the joys of Zoom that you can't see what I'm wearing.
Well, no, that's very good. That's very clever. Well done. Well done.
I'm not quite sure whether this is on YouTube in vision, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is, yeah. Yes,
oh, yeah, in raw.
Well, maybe I can show you that I have socks on.
Very comfortable. Very comfortable. Well done.
I've been keeping fit during lockdown.
Yeah, and I noticed you were on the pomegranate as well, so that's going to keep you fit as well.
Yeah, it's
excellent.
Very good. It's a little bit sticky though. I'm finding my lips are beginning to stick together.
Oh, for God's sake, don't drink anymore, so you'll have to talk in the next round.
Hey, will you excuse me for only about 2 minutes? I want to get a.
We'll wait till you come back.
I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
I just to make tea.
Well done.
Well, that was only 17 minutes long, Ted.
Oh, that's brilliant.
How long is it supposed to be?
10 minutes about.
Really?
But by the time Mara is finished now with the cutting and the editing, she'll have it down to about 16 and a half minutes, so there's no worries.
Less than that.
Lots of
believe
skill
me.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
I am vicious in my editing. But Paul's getting quite good. I have to say I don't edit him quite I don't have to edit him quite so severely.
Right.
Ted, I'm afraid Ted, I edit exceedingly severely.
But you, Myra, we have to make you justify the big pay that you're on.
Well, you know what they say, Ted. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Well, no. In actual fact, Mara, I believe myself that what we're doing is a selfless act.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be taken from a gratitude point of view when you do selfless acts, because you're contributing to society.
Mm-hmm.
And if more people did selfless acts, the world would be a much better place.
Well, you can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
But are you retired?
Me?
Both of you?
Oh,
No,
I'm
I'm retired from what I used to do, but I'm very busy now with what I do. I was a printer for a national newspaper, and they closed their printing section in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been a health and safety representative for my section, and I went to university, did a diploma, and now I have my own company, Health and Safety.
Okay.
And I'm helping people now with the likes of COVID and masks and talks about hygiene and the effectiveness. And so never before, Kathy, was health and safety as important as it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Because you know yourself, in England, particularly if there's a big case, they used to talk about the superciliousness of health and safety. They refer to it as ELF and safety. But
Elf.
now they realise that what we were doing all the time is keeping people from getting hurt, keeping people from coming home from work with some kind of a virus that they didn't realise was out there. So, and that must be a good thing to be able to do. And since I loved what I did with the organisation as a health and safety rep, they sent me on all the courses. So it was one thing I said I'll consider, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because out of that, I quickly learned that I would have to be able to communicate better, more effectively than heretofore. So I joined Toastmasters. And then, since I was a one-man show when I started out, there's 11 people with me now, but when I started out, I was a one-man show. So what I did is I joined a business networking group. And I have fantastic friends there as well. And the support you get from groups like that, because I'm the only health and safety person, then you'd have a person who prints books in there, you'll have an accountant in there, you'll have a person who's a financial analyst in there. So you have advice coming at you from all different sides, and we're in the kind of the SME sectors, you know. That's fantastic.
Isn't it interesting how people's careers change?
Isn't it amazing? Amazing.
Now I'm a speaker on cruise ships.
Oh, fantastic.
That wasn't what I started out doing years and years ago. But circumstances change, opportunities arise,
Of
and
course.
you can use them.
And the trick actually, Kathy, is to recognise the opportunity, because sometimes you'll jump up and bite you, but you won't see it.
Yes.
So what do you speak about on cruise ships? You just give talks, is it?
Yes, I give talks on maritime heroes and brazen buccaneers.
Oh, fantastic. I love the alliteration of brazen buccaneers.
Yeah.
Ted,
Yes.
this is too interesting not to be mentioned in segment 4.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
what a beautiful sentence, brazen buccaneers.
Yeah, but don't say any more. Just
All
start
right, okay.
segment 4, right?
YouTube has it now. They'll all be coming back on Monday evening, for this part. Well done, Kathy. That sounds very exciting. But you're obviously not as busy as you'd like to be, so because you're kind of, the ships are floundering at the moment.
Hey, Ted, sorry to be so crude. What I am suggesting, in case of misunderstanding, is that you stop talking to Kathy now, this very second.
Okay.
That I introduce segment 4, and you can then start talking to Kathy at whatever point you like.
Okay.
About what she does for a living.
Exactly.
I mean,
Right. I don't want to know what she does for a living at all. I want to know what she does as a hobby. But that's
Okay,
not a living, that's a hobby she's doing. She's doing something she loves, talking to people about Brazen Buccaneers.
Order.
Order. Sorry, Madam Speaker.
look, I tell you something about
Paul is in
Kathy.
there, so Paul.
I tell you something about Kathy. She floats my boat.
Oh, that's lovely. That's a beautiful
Very good.
analogy.
Well
I
done.
like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Paul, you're going to bring us in. 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, listeners. Welcome to the fourth part of this week's podcast. A week when we're going to take you to a place you've never been before. This week, we're going to take you to that particular corner of England, out there near Ipswich. Great word to have to spell, Ipswich. And we're going to have the man from Cork, Ted Malanphy, talking to the woman from Ipswich. So I give you Ted Malanphy and Kathy Shelburne.
Thank you very much, Paul. And Kathy and I were having a lovely chat. And I'm going to go straight over to Kathy to tell us about that fantastic opportunity that she latched onto when she became a speaker on ships. So, Kathy, what did you speak about and who did you speak to about what you do as a person who entertains people on ships?
Thank you, Ted. Yes, I give talks on board ships, or I used to, on monumental maritime heroes and brazen buccaneers. And it's a curious thing how it arose, really. I had a career in publishing, then I moved into television, then I moved into publicity, promotion, marketing, and I started to write articles for lifestyle magazines. And one of the articles I wrote was about a local hero, connected to Nelson, and it just went from there. And the more I delved into it, the more fascinated I became by these men, because they were mostly men, 200 or 300 or 400 years ago, who were dashing all over the world, doing all sorts of daring, exciting, dastardly deeds. And I began to develop a series of talks using my experience as a Toastmaster. And I signed up with an agency, Peel Entertainment, and they booked me onto ships. Now, sadly, of course, we all know that cruise ships are not occurring, cruises aren't occurring at the moment, ships are grounded. But I have done a few talks on Zoom to clubs such as Probus clubs or WI clubs or whatever. And that has been a real experience, really testing, because you're talking for 45 minutes and you've no idea if your audience have fallen asleep or, or what they're up to, really. So you've got to try and get all sorts of devices in there. And yes, I use video clips that I might do if I was talking in person, but I also might have some gunfire to just give an explosive sound.
Fantastic.
To wake them all up. And then I ask questions as well. And I don't want them to answer because that just gets too complicated on Zoom. But I want them to be thinking what the answer might be so that there is some sort of dialogue going on there. And then, of course, at the end, they can ask questions and we do have good conversations. But it has required really thinking round the whole way of presenting, really.
Superb. And I'm certainly going to ask you questions here, Kathy. Would you be talking about brazen buccaneers who might have some hidden treasure out there somewhere? Because there must be some of it out there.
Absolutely. And it's such a curious thing. I find there are so many coincidences in all this. And one coincidence I found in my local museum, Christchurch Mansion in Ipswich, there is a lovely sea chest. And that sea chest belonged to a man called Thomas Cavendish, who was the second English person to sail around the world. sort of 500 years ago. But that sea chest was his treasure chest. I mean, literally, when he shot up a Spanish galleon and took that treasure home to Britain, then he would have put it in that sea chest. And it's still there. It's literally a mile away from where I live, and I can still go and see that. And everywhere I go, I find these extraordinary coincidences. Now, listeners won't be able to see, but my backdrop is a statue.
Yes.
And it's a statue on Lowestoft Esplanade in Suffolk. And on top of the bulk at the bottom is a statue of Triton. Now, Triton is the son of the sea god Neptune. I was just strolling along the Esplanade in Lowestoft when I realised that. And then round the corner, there was a building called Columbus Building. And on the side of that was tiles, a mosaic of Columbus's ships. These little things
It's
are
incredible. You're drawn to it, actually. Yeah, you're right in the centre of the maritime mystery that you're speaking about.
Yes.
That's incredible, yeah. Brilliant.
I was so intrigued by all this last year, lockdown. I decided to produce a pack of playing cards, my monumental maritime hero playing cards.
Oh, very nice.
And here they are.
Great idea.
So that's the box. And then each card has a bit of information. So here we have Admiral Sir Christopher Mings, an illustration of him. Most of them are on some sort of monument.
That's a beautiful idea.
And so here's one, Christopher Jones. He was the master of the Mayflower that sailed to America.
The first one to America, yeah.
Yeah, 400 years ago.
Kathy, sorry interrupting you here. Where can I buy a set of your playing cards?
Yeah, I was asking.
Buy them off my website, which is www.seashellcommunications.co.uk.
Oh, we'll have to get a pack of those cards, Paul.
Well, we'll be putting, as is our practice,
put the link on the thing, yeah.
A link to your website on our website.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Kathy, have you ever come across a lady buccaneer?
Yes. In fact, Irish one, Grace O'Malley.
Grace O'Malley, Gran your whale, yeah. That's why I asked the question.
Yes. Yeah. And then there were two others, Mary Read and Anne Bonny. There was also a Chinese one she had a whole fleet of ships. I mean, there weren't that many women pirates, but the ones who were around were incredibly capable. They really had the men under their thumb, I think.
They must have been incredible, because for a woman to get to the top in that, she was twice as good as the men.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. But what about this question I asked you about hidden treasures? Where can we go to find it?
I think you need to find a treasure map and then just get going, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the treasure chest. And when they found the treasure chest, was there treasure in it? Or was it all after being plundered at that stage?
I think it was all in the hands of the monarchs, I'm sorry to say.
Was it right, yeah?
Because the point of the treasure was that it went back to the monarch.
Yes.
And then fueled their various explorations or further.
God, fantastic.
The most famous Irish woman pirate, Grania Whale, Grace O'Malley, after whom my daughter is called.
Really?
She met Queen Elizabeth.
Right. I don't know enough about her to.
Yeah, she sailed up the Thames.
Interesting.
And I have her biography upstairs.
Oh, will you send it to me?
No, I'll send you the link. I'm keeping the book.
Yeah. Actually, the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, they recently did an episode on Grace O'Malley, which I haven't yet watched. So look out for that. And they've also done one on Mary Read and Anne Bonny, because a sculptress has produced a statue of one or other of those.
Fantastic history, great history.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that the people who listen to you on the ships are young people. Would I be right?
No, you're wrong, actually.
Right.
Not least because the average age of a cruise ship passenger is 67 anyway.
But they're young, Kathy. That's young.
Well, but they tend to be older people and generally men, and they tend to have some sort of naval or some sort of practical background.
Some connection.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Have you written any books on it?
No, I put all my efforts into my playing cards, and there's also a leaflet with the playing cards. So that's like a little.
Well, that's a nice idea, actually. Yeah, but there's definitely a book in you. You know that. You could self-publish the book now and get it printed quite reasonably.
Yes.
Because they're
Kathy,
great stories. They're fantastic stories.
Kathy, can I ask you, do you get any opportunity to do public relations for Toastmasters International when you're on cruise ships?
This conversation is too
I
late.
did offer to do some workshops in public speaking, but it hasn't been taken up. And I think it's mostly because cruise ships passengers are on holiday and they don't particularly want to do things that are developing their skills.
Yes.
They're retired and, you know, they're not looking at their career.
Cruise ships employ a lot of staff. And you had me thinking while you were talking about I wanted to ask you, do you think it would be possible to form a club called Toastmasters at Sea?
It's a brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic idea,
yeah.
Well, perhaps we could have a chat about collaborating, because our district is particularly keen to set up new clubs this year. Now, we would need a number of collaborators to set up that, but I'm sure that the Talk Show for Talkers would provide, at the very least, moral support and perhaps even club sponsorship.
Speechcrafts or something like that.
For Toastmasters at Sea. And there are so many different forms of vessels around the world, including people who sail yachts. And people who sail dinghies. And a whole load of people working on cruise ships have ambitions to rise in their career, and communication skills and leadership is just what we offer. Sorry, I'm interrupting the flow, but that's
beautiful. And what I wanted to say to Kathy, my namesake, Kathy, my uncle, Teddy Melamfi also, he was in the Royal Navy.
Right.
And he was all over the world because he joined the Royal Navy back in the 40s or the 30s, I think. But he retired when he retired from the Navy, he joined the newspaper group that I eventually ended up working for also. And that was the policy of that newspaper group. They took in people of the same families because it worked. You always had loyalty down through, you know. But when he retired from that newspaper company, he emigrated to Portugal. Oh. He never went anywhere on a plane. He was terrified of flying. The only time he ever got on a plane was when we were bringing his ashes back from Portugal. He went everywhere by ship.
Kathy, can I ask you about your experience as Vice President for Public Relations in your club? I'd love to know what you're doing in order to attract people to come to your club during the pandemic. Are you doing anything?
Yeah, it's a really good question. What we've concentrated on is events on Zoom in our normal meetings. And we've had, a couple of things we've done. We did an online top tips for online presentations. So various members of the club, they came up with a top tip, and we then ran these consecutively in sort of 12 minutes, really, one tip after another with props as well. It went extremely well, but this was on the back of something we'd done earlier, part of our 25th anniversary celebrations, where we'd had 1 minute speeches, 25 of them for each year, and each person spoke on a number. So I was first, I spoke on number 1. The president then finished it all off by speaking on the number 25. And it was enormous fun. We rehearsed, which was essential, but it meant that it was a very visual, very exciting spectacle. And all the people who were joining us from around the world, particularly for our 25th anniversary celebration, they could really get involved, appreciate it, join in the fun.
The numbers, did you have a speech title on the numbers?
No, literally, I was talking on the number 1.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fabulous. Yeah, that's good.
So
That's a
like
good idea.
I was number one.
That's a good idea. All right, yeah, well done.
It was incredibly simple, but the key really was rehearsing, and I sounded a gong between each one.
So you just had the minute, so yeah.
Yes, that's right. So I really recommend events because people can buy into them, you can promote them very successfully, and then you can use sound bites from them to push on your social media. So you get sort of 3 bites at the cherry, really. You're promoting it in advance, you're having the actual fun of it, which anybody can join in, and then you can use it in all sorts of different ways afterwards to continue to promote the club.
Fantastic idea. We could be speaking, Paul, about the Blarney Stone, which is part of the Stone of Scone. Do you know that, Kathy?
Yeah, well, if I'd come to the Killarney conference, I was going to go and kiss that Blarney Stone.
You'd have to come to Blarney. Well, please God, when things are sorted out, you'll come to Blarney, and we'll be delighted to invite you to the Blarney Toastmasters Club. We look out the window of our club at Blarney Castle.
Oh, brilliant.
No, Ted, no, not at all. We're not going to wait until then.
Yeah,
Kathy,
we'll do it
if you
before.
meet on the 2nd and 4th, oh, well, this is the talk show for talkers, but we'll send you the link to our next
one of our meetings, yeah.
And there we are. And we will encourage you to become a dual member of our club as well, if you like the club.
Oh, we'd love that. We'd love to have Kathy in our club, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Please do send me details.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you very much. Thank you, Kathy. And that's a lovely way to end this week's show of the Talk Show for Talkers. Thank you to Kathy Shelburne for being a fantastic guest. We were doing our best. We could have a 2-hour show just listening to Kathy about the Brazen Buccaneers. I love that. That's great. I can just see myself with one leg and a parrot on my shoulder and a patch on my eye. That's fantastic. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Paul. And thank you to the person behind the screen doing all the bits and pieces that need to be done, Maura O'Brien. See you again next week. Bye.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
listeners. Thank you.
Kathy, fantastic. You'll have to write that book. Myself and Paul are going to buy a deck of cards each. Can you still play cards? Can you play poker and stuff with them? Is the Queen of Hearts there and the King of Hearts and all that?
They're all there, but actually between you and me, there's so much information on the cards that actually it's quite, it's easier to read the cards than to play with them.
So it is information we'll be getting, so we'll lose track of the game of cards.
Ted, they're collector's items.
Fantastic.
And they're the kind of thing that go in museums.
Right. Oh, interesting.
And I'd expect to find them in a number of different museums. The Maritime Museum would, of course, have them. And but there are a lot of other museums around the, not just...
That's interesting. Yeah, all museums would have them. So, yeah, all the museums should have
big
them.
market.
Like a library would have a copy of most books, you know. That's fantastic.
But sadly, at the moment, museum shops are shut. I know that they're online, but I haven't been able to get into the museum shops because their staff are furloughed or they're just operating at a very low level. But yes, I mean, you're absolutely right that they should stock them, and that's my task in hand, really.
Yeah, it's a lovely present for somebody to get, Paul, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Yeah, very, something you wouldn't think of. Especially lovely, educating people.
Especially people who want to move up from stand-up boarding, stand-up...
comedy.
No, when you stand on a... Moira will tell me, what does David Clinton do? Stand Up and John McFadden, they do...
there's sailing boards.
Yeah, you do that. So when you want to move up from that, you'll clearly need this. Kathy, if I'd had a chance and we had, a lot more time, I'd have asked you if by any chance you say anything about Sutton Hoo.
Sutton who?
Sutton Hoo.
Sutton who?
Who? Okay, Sutton Hoo. Do you?
I don't, but I could.
You see, that's Ted and Moira, I used to work for National Trust. That's how come I know about this.
Yeah.
But that is a discovery that was made many years ago and then covered up and then opened up again. There was even a documentary on TV about it recently. But the film, yes. Right. Yeah. But the key thing is it's a Viking ship and a Viking site.
Fabulous.
And it's one of the most important finds. Kathy would know more about it than me. And but it's extraordinary and it's very important. So it's owned. The site is owned by National Trust now, I think. And
where was it found, Paul? In England, was it?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
in
found
Suffolk.
almost down the road from Kathy.
That's interesting.
It's in Suffolk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is an amazing site. It's very atmospheric, and the National Trust have done well. They've built an exhibition hall, and they've got replicas of all the treasures, which are now in the British Museum. But yes, it is fascinating, but it's kind of outside my sphere because I concentrate on the age of sail, and I only go back as far as the 1400s, because otherwise, you could just never stop.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe you never stop. Maybe that is the point.
That's fantastic. That's a
Can I have
fantastic job you have.
Kathy, just a silly factoid question. I don't know the answer, but who is known as the oldest recorded pirate, sea pirate?
I don't know the answer either. I mean, it could be an English one, it could be an Irish pirate, but it could be an Arab pirate. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
And piracy.
Pirate as well.
Piracy goes back as
very
far as people have taken to the waters. I mean, it's so the
Yes.
Vikings certainly would have been pirates.
And
Definitely.
even still, I'd imagine there's plenty of pirates out there.
There are, and I've looked at modern websites plotting piracy around the world, and it's still around. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's a lot more subtle these days.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah.
But it is a fascinating subject, yeah.
Fantastic.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday. In fact, no, I was listening to a speaker speaking as a test speaker in Area 11 here in Cork. And on his biography, he had written, because he would be interviewed afterwards, he had written that I think he said he travelled in a car or somewhere with an assassin. Right? Now, the particularly interesting, we all thought of, somebody who was hired by the mafia or somebody who was hired by, a hitman. But no, he's hired by shipping companies to shoot pirates. So he's a trained marksman, and his job is to shoot pirates.
Oh, yeah.
What a weird job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Said he was a nice guy. He wasn't a psychopath. He was just a nice guy who was doing his job.
Oh, horrible.
I wouldn't like to have a case of mistaken identity when he was shooting people. They may not be pirates at all.
Yeah, well, you know what? We all hear about pirates, especially going in certain parts of the world.
Yes, that's true. It was very prominent there about 10 years ago, remember?
Yeah.
Ships were being captured and piracies and ransoms being dialed out that we didn't hear anything about after.
I'd say Kathy knows a lot about that.
That's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, and even on board cruise ships, going through the Suez Canal and other canals, obviously confined space. And the passengers just think that there are sort of extra little things on deck, but actually they're anti-pirate things if pirates were to jump on board.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting,
Yeah, I haven't actually been through the Suez on a ship, but I know people who have and who've had that experience.
What about the people on the ship that got breached there for the last week? That was interesting. Must be a huge ship.
Yes, enormous.
Enormous.
Yes.
But
Okay,
folks.
How
many people were on that ship?
Folks, can I bring the conversation to a close so far as YouTube is concerned? We'll say goodbye for this week, and we'll see you again next week. So bye from all of
Andy,
us.
thank you. It's been a pleasure. I have to leave as well.